COVID information, misinformation could start spreading unchecked on Twitter again. And that's because the platform has stopped enforcing those policies. Twitter didn't really make the announcement about the change. Instead, it added a line to the pages of its website outlining that policy, which reads, quote, effective November 23rd, 2022, Twitter is no longer enforcing the COVID-19 misleading information policy. You might remember Twitter's public push to fight COVID misinformation early last year, when tweets with misleading information about COVID were labeled or removed, and those who repeatedly violated the rules had their accounts suspended. Now, this new change seems to be part of Elon Musk's greater push for what he calls free speech on the platform. Joining us now is tech reporter for the Wall Street Journal, Tim Higgins. Now, Tim, diving into the numbers here is fascinating. Twitter restoring over 60,000 suspended accounts, over 11,000 of which were suspended for COVID misinformation. What does that tell us about what's to come?
Well, you know, it's interesting here because, as you point out, Elon buying Twitter because of his beliefs of making it a platform for free speech. You have to go back a few years to the beginning of COVID, and he was very critical of some of the stances that governments around the U.S. took to kind of restrict the spread of that virus, and really going to war with some of the local governments in California. So this is a long kind of held position that he felt like there was too much kind of censorship of other ideas about the virus out there, despite maybe pushback from health agencies that he was maybe in the wrong or maybe not. And so now that he has kind of made this decision, I think it could mean, you know, it could be an open forum for whatever you want to see in regards to discussions about COVID-19.
And since the pandemic started, Musk has been a vocal critic of how health officials have reacted to the COVID pandemic. How much of that plays into what we're seeing?
Huge. It gets to one of the examples clearly that has disrupted or disturbed him in the past few years of Silicon Valley tech companies, in his kind of opinion, limiting freedom of speech. You saw it with that. You saw it then later on with misinformation attempts around the election, and ultimately banning of Donald Trump on the platform. Another issue that seemed to rub Elon Musk the wrong way was that if the president of the United States could be taken off the platform, really couldn't anybody? And a bigger conversation, should a president be, essentially be censored, even if the information the president's giving is not fair or is not correct in the eyes of the platform?
Tim, I don't know about you, but every day when I go to check Twitter, one of the first things I check is it working, after so many people said that it was possibly going to collapse when Elon Musk took over. So it's still up and running. What does that say about what's going on there?
Well, there's still maybe half the company from when he took over, so there's still people there. It also probably speaks to the fact that there's strong engineering at the base of the company, the roots of the platform. It's still early days in that regard. Ultimately, the changes we're going to see in the future, might be more policy-oriented, such as this issue with COVID and deciding whether it's going to become a platform that's generating subscription revenue versus ad revenue. Those are the kinds of the big things that we see Elon kind of tackling here. They can figure out where the switch is to turn the lights on a given day. The bigger question is, what are they going to be? What is Twitter 2.0 going to be?
And the latest in the Twitter saga today, Elon Musk accused Apple of threatening to remove the app from their app store. But then right before our show, it seems like Musk and Apple CEO Tim Cook sat down to work out what he says was a misunderstanding. They even seem to have like a nice stroll through Apple's campus, maybe. Any insight into how other companies, especially those who have long relationships with Twitter, are responding to Musk behind closed doors?
Well, there's a lot of concern in the advertising community. We've seen some big players pull out or reduce their spend at Twitter because of concerns about the kind of issues that we're talking about here, the moderation of content the uncertainty around where the company is going and all the rapid changes that are being made and in kind of the future of the company. But getting back to this core issue of when you bring up this idea that COVID-19 misinformation might be on the platform, advertisers don't necessarily want to be advertising or having their brands or names associated with controversial information, whether it's misinformation or hate speech or pornography. These are places where Madison Avenue doesn't want to go, and has been one of the challenges that Elon has, is to convince them that this will be a stable environment. And today he is putting out kind of a policy, his kind of statement of what the company is about. And he's saying he wants to be transparent, but he wants freedom of speech, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you can broadcast your speech. You don't have necessarily the right to spread that speech. So you can say it, but you don't necessarily have the platform's ability to spread it as wild as perhaps in the past that hate speech was so popular to spread. So that's one of the things we're going to be looking for to see if that's the case.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.